All right, everyone. I want to go through the proper way to fill out an anesthetic record. So first, patient name here, species, breed, fill all this out. We want the medical record on every anesthesia record. Then of course, age, weight, temp, pulse, respiration. If everything's normal, you can use the information from the night before. If the cat comes in and is a little bit febrile, let's go ahead and get the temp from the morning of to make sure that we're not still febrile, that kind of stuff. PCV, total protein, azo, we can just switch this to an azo since we're not getting blood urea nitrogen. Don't forget to put the date, and that's the date of the procedure, not the date before, but the actual date of the procedure, and then you circle the corresponding day. Case clinician, that's not a student, that's not me, that is the surgeon who you're working with that day. And when you get down into the clinics, this becomes more important because we want to be able to associate that with a specific clinician. So if, for example, you're doing a medicine procedure, we want to know that it's trepanir that we did that case for. You're going to fill out the ASA status and whether or not that case is an ER. Then you're going to mark which system you plan to use. Do not fill in your endotracheal tube size until you actually put a tube in, and then you're going to record the size that you're using. You can put down your ACE hydro and ketamine for a cat, ACE hydro for a dog. And you can put the dose that you calculated that you're going to give in milligrams and IM. Don't record the time yet because that's going to be the time that you actually give it, and corresponding AM or PM for that. Then you're going to put the monitors that you're using in your patient. This might be something that you don't know whether you're going to have a Doppler or an oscillometric. So you might wait. I see that I actually recorded both of those. I didn't mean to. You're either going to have a Doppler, and we recorded Doppler, so you would have this and not the oscillometric. Then some of these things were going to be filled out the next day. So this is all stuff you can fill out. Some of this stuff, I should say, you can fill out the night before just to make it a little bit easier for yourself, but you're going to fill in the time the next day. If you choose an oscillometric, you're going to want to record that. Other things that you're going to fill out the day of surgery, you're going to fill out that you put a temporary catheter and the location of that catheter and what gauge catheter you placed. You're also going to fill out what size cuff you used. For example, for our Doppler, what size cuff we used and where we did that. So that if we're doing anesthesia in the future and we're getting much different numbers, but we realize that we're doing it, one time we use a Doppler on the right front, another time we're doing an oscillometric on the tail, it can explain why the numbers are so different. You're going to want to record the pre-med response. Hopefully it's excellent. History can be filled out the night before, just the history of the patient that's pertinent to anesthesia. Downstairs, it becomes important to say whether the owners have elected CPR or DNR. And you're going to want to include the time, and this is going to be the time that we start the procedure. So you don't need to start it at 9 necessarily, unless you're inducing at, for example, maybe 9:50, then we would start this at 9. But in this particular case, we're starting at 10, looks like 15. We give meds, propofol at 10:20, so we start at 10 o'clock in the morning, AM. 10, 11, 12, carry that across. Just moving down, we record our fluids. I usually just put a line where we start. Fluids, how we record fluids is it's the amount of fluids in that amount of time over the running total. So in this 15 minutes, this cat got 7 mils, and so we have a running total of 12. In this 15 minutes, the cat got 15. So either the fluids were bumped up or we needed to give just a little bump of fluids. And that gives us a running total of 27. So on and so forth. When we're done, we stop and we record the total mils of fluids that the cat received or that the patient received throughout the procedure. Additionally, we record our induction agent. So we're going to be using propofol, and I just put an X at the time that we give the propofol and the milligram dosage of propofol that we used. In this particular case, the cat might have gotten light, and so it needed an additional 10 milligrams back here. So again, we just put an X for the propofol and the milligrams that we gave. We then total it out here, and once we're talking about drugs, we always refer to it in milligrams. So we gave meloxicam sub-Q at some point, and so we gave this milligram dosage at this time, and we carry that over. Cimbadol, we gave this milligram dosage, we carry that over as the totals. Again, when we're talking about drugs, what we care about is the milligrams. I rarely care about how many mils you've given because the concentration can be different, but the milligrams will always be consistent. So the volume can be different depending on the concentration, but the milligrams will always be consistent. We're going to also record temperature. You can do it about every 15 minutes, similar to fluids. And so we'll record temperature across. We'll mark the, oh, look, I'm noticing typos in my example. This is not SIBO. This is ISO. And I know that because of the concentrations that we gave. So we started this cat on 2, went down to 1.5. We bumped up to 2 at some point. We went down to 1, and then we turned it off. We have our oxygen flow. We started at 1 flow. We went down to 0.6, and then we went over to 1. Then every 5 minutes, we're going to be recording heart rate. We're going to be recording SpO2. We're going to be recording the Doppler blood pressure, so that has its own symbol, CO2, end-tidal CO2, and respiratory rate. So we do that for every 5 minutes. Other things that we're going to fill out, time to go home. So typically we're going to look at least 2 hours following extubation is our general rule for when a patient can go home from anesthesia. Realistically, it's going to be the next day. So you can also record the date that the animal is going to be going home. We want a post-op pain score for every patient. We're going to have the time that we extubate. We're going to have the temperature around that extubation time. And we're going to have some notes on recovery: smooth, uneventful, rough, dysphoric, whatever is pertinent to that case. And then this last bit here are things that we can record as well. So we have symbols that we can use. So here are our codes. S for surgery. This is our symbol for when surgery ends. And then we can start to make notes. So at, if I have this as the time, at approximately 10:45, we had to change our CO2 monitor. And at approximately 11:03, here's our symbol, something else significant happened. So we can record anything that is significant to our patient down here. We shouldn't need to record medications given because that's already recorded here. But anything that we need to do, for example, if we need to re-intubate, if the patient wakes up and becomes disconnected and is super light for a period of time, something like that. So once you have all of this filled out appropriately, you're going to want to sign your name here, and then you take it to one of the anesthesiologists, myself or one of my colleagues, and we're going to sign this, essentially saying that all of this looks good. And that's how you do it.